This assignment is a video critique on Ayn Rand's philosophical contemporary piece titled Racism, which comes from her book The Virtue of Selfishness. The main point of this essay is Ayn Rand's views on racism. As we all know, racism is an act that has haunted mankind since the dawn of time. This essay will be critiqued by Group 2, which comprises of Krizia Major, Makeia Leslie, Adonia Dean, Rikisha Moss, Anthony Sturrup, Daria Hall, and myself, Shakala McIntosh. The essay presents racism as an unsophisticated version of communism, or collectivism. Rand continues by stating that racism is the creed of barbaric savages and is still common in modern-day society, both inside and out of the United States of America. Yes, there has been a shift from the blatant form of racism that our ancestors knew, but it has yet to be demolished. There's proof of this in the laws and social statuses of Black persons. In fact, the social standards of Black persons has yet to change. Blacks are still seen as less than compared to other races. According to Rand, rather than moving forward, Black persons basically took the low road and used what she referred to as reverse racism, which they believe will serve as retribution to for what their ancestors went through by the hands of Caucasians. In essence, Anne said that this way of thinking is just backwards and basically equal to the mindset of the original races. And if this continues, we will never know what it is to experience true justice and egalitarianism. Thank you.
Sometimes it's debate the lowest and by far the most crudely primitive form of collectivism. She utilizes the ideology of collectivism to refute the philosophical argument of racism and racial identity. Furthermore, she causes that collectivism insinuates men have no true explicit thoughts, but instead implicitly inherited opinions that affect their moral, social, and political character. She therefore postulates that races ascribe to this theory and reduce individuals to their shared biology. Subsequently, persons are stripped of their rights and freedoms as their intellectual content is deemed to be the property of their respective groups who hold the prerogative to impulsively benefit from that individual. She urges that this caveman doctrine of innate ideals allows people to use race inferiority to their benefit. It disregards the reason and choice of individuals and strips them of the possibility of any individually achieved value. She further highlights her distaste for the emphasis placed on man's physical composition to be considered with any tonality when it is providing the consideration of a man's ability within himself to live. Employing her philosophy of objectivism, which is simply rational individualism that recognizes a man's intrinsic right to rationale and choice without collective concerns or hearing, Rand identifies capitalism to be the only true cure for racism.
Rand addresses capitalism and individualism as an antidote to racial prejudice, in which peaceful coexistence can only be achieved on the recognition of an individual's rights. Although capitalism has seen to eradicate racial barriers and slavery in several civilized countries, she explains that in present times, the dispute of racism is growing worse due to the contradictory behavior of Black leaders that claim to fight for equality. She took an impartial approach as she explained that instead of fighting for equality, they are demanding special race privileges regardless of the consequences that are pushed onto the additional races. In other words, as a community, Blacks are asking to be chosen over any other race due to the mistreatment of their ancestors. This in turn introduces the concept of collective racial guilt, in which the white class is punished based on the actions of their ancestors. She insists that Black leaders are guiding their combat in the direction of a Southern racist, because the Blacks would violate one's race in order to liberate their own. Furthermore, Rand warns her readers to not succumb to the temptations of racism and ultimately become the racist they were trying to fight. Individualism has seemed to be an important concept within this article, in which the article highlights that the groups and masses do not matter, only the rights of each person independently.
Judging someone for their qualities which they inherit, which is one of the lowest forms of despising an individual, and also collectivism. It highlights the despised on race, social lessons, sex, insight, and decays their rights to show their genuine potential. The advancement of collectivism is ethically off base in activism life, and those people shouldn't capitulate to it to demolish their character. From the book, an individual ought to be able to be acknowledged for their attitudes and values. Concurrent to the book elements of a moral philosophy, Rachel alluded to the occurrence that happened in 1958 between Miss York and an officer. Making a report, she was taken advantage of and had unseemly photographs taken of her at that point, which was then shared around. When displayed before a court, she won her case, and her situation was brought to light, which was Altarianism, and rights similar to the individual with color. Her rights were taken from her by somebody predominant for their pick. Businesses, lawmakers, trade proprietors, and places such as America mishandle the ideas of what they think racism really is.
With the direct deontology hypothesis. This hypothesis states that the obligations of reparation and equity are obligations that the Black community are committed to. In reaction to this, that would be a never-ending cycle of treacheries in case minorities were permitted points of interest over others due to past racial issues is the egotistical fare to highlight African Americans, since other races has well endured at the hands of the white lion's share. What the Black pioneers ought to be pushing for is balance and value for all, no matter what race, sex, or statement of faith. Attempting to benefit off of collective racial blame will, as it were, to be the disservice of society. It is of most extreme significance to memorize from the botches made and to undertake and take off an eye for an eye. The philosophy behind it is in being inferred that we ought to happily excuse and forget that we ought to recognize the transgressions made and attempt to move forward together, realizing that we must do our portion in making the world break even for everyone.
Overall, Ayn Rand's piece, The Virtues of Selfishness, Racism, calls to attention the issues surrounding collectivism, a political or economic theory advocating collective control over production and distribution, with special emphasis on the collective rather than individual action or identity. The author argues that such actions are limiting as it denies an individual the opportunity to demonstrate character, self-esteem, and knowledge true to themselves. Furthermore, Ayn Rand's piece explains that objectivism is totally opposed to racism, as it is an individualistic philosophy, and it holds that all people, first and foremost, should be regarded as individuals and judged on their individual traits. In her essay, Racism, Ayn Rand decrees that racism is a primitive form of tribalism and a crude collectivism. Collectivism, in comparison, revokes the opportunity to be individualistic, as assigned traits are based on phenotypic characteristics, religion, and one's lineage.
As stated in the work, this proves to be problematic as these aspects of an individual cannot be determined by the defining factors used in collectivism. To this, the writer proposes that total capitalism is the solution to ending collectivism, and in turn, racism, as this allows individuals to solely reap the benefits of their work without any gain or loss from societal stereotypes. According to Rand, this theory would be true as Capitalism gives individuals the right to determine their own characters and destiny. Moreover, the author proclaims that in order for such a society to thrive, one must relinquish the holds of the past and move on a fresh start.